Grande, grazie. Famone una per la zia che non si sa mai. Grazie, Chiara.
Yeah, I can now.
Federico, ti sento io, eh?
And how are you? All right.
Pronto il Segway col... È un fenomeno comunque quello lì con la Segway e la telecamera.
Pit in, to pit out, and to do the driver change if that is required. So everybody has to pit for the same time. Now, of course, you can get it wrong in the pits and run after that. If you are less, then you get a stop-go penalty to make up the shortfall. That's why in the past we've had people being given a stop-go for even something like 0.3 of a second, which is virtually impossible to do, but it has to be offered that way under the regulations to balance out for the short stop that you make under the regulations. However, to business, it is going to be Milos Pavlovic who starts on pole. Jeroen Mul with him at the front of the grid. Simone Di Luca will start on the second row of the grid, and alongside him Alberto Viberti, and then the third row Gerhard Verraza, hugely experienced Lamborghini driver both in this championship and GT racing, and he will line up alongside Sebastian Merchan, who came into the series, the former rallyman, the Ecuadorian, at Silverstone a couple of months ago. The grid is formed. It is going to be 25 cars that we have here this weekend. Should have been 26, in fairness, but there was an accident early on in the weekend for the Portuguese driver, Alexandre Martins. He quite badly damaged his car, and very gentlemanly, Roberto Tanca and Andrea Amici decided to let him have their car instead, gave up the opportunity to race this weekend. Andrea Amici, the reigning champion, so it's been a frustrating season for him generally because of the relative pace against him of Roberto Tanca, but they decided they would sit out the weekend. I think Amici had realised anyway that it wasn't going to be another championship winning year for him, so it didn't matter hugely, and their car has been given to Alexandre Martins. And in yesterday's race, he brought it home in a decent result, and he's going to start this race, in fact, on the 7th row of the grid. Alexandre Martins. The championship supported by both Lamborghini and Blancpain, and the grid formed the results of yesterday's race. It was the car of Piscopo and Pavlovic that took the win from Jeroen Mul. Third, hence the grid position, was Simone Di Luca, and then Alberto Viberti ahead of Travasa and Sandro Bickel, with Sebastian Merchan and Andrea Ceccato, his co-driver, taking 6th. 7th, Dimitri Engelbert and Mikko Eskilinen. There, looking back on the grid, number 64 is Natalia Fraidana, a Russian girl who's done quite a bit of GT racing back home, and in fact occasionally has been seen in Europe racing in GT cars. Now they're concentrating on the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo. Good to have her on the grid for this weekend. And that car starting on the 9th row. One to watch is going to be Mirko Bortolotti, who will start on the 12th row after dramas yesterday. And the same behind him, Giovanni Venturini, he will start last of all, and Jonathan Cochet starts penultimate. So three very fast drivers starting at the back after problems in yesterday's race. And all of them with work to do, that is for sure. 50-minute race, and the championship works in as much as there are three classes: the pros, the pro-ams and the AMs. So everybody gets something to race for. The pro drivers these days are career racing drivers, but they've got to be, if you like, young, up-and-coming career racing drivers, not like the old days where a Peter Cox, for example, would, with his raft of experience, come in and be so much faster than the gentleman racers, and I think that deterred a few. So the pros were outlawed for a season or so. The Pro-Am category boomed, but now a different kind of pro has been allowed back in, and with the pro drivers being those like Edoardo Piscopo from Formula 3 Euro Series, Mirko Bortolotti from Formula 2, for example, it means they are good professional racing drivers, but they've never really reached what you might call the big time. They've never had worked drives for manufacturers in sports car racing or got to Formula 1, but they have achieved success at a given level. And that has raised the game of the championship. It's also made life a bit tough for the likes of Cedric Lima, because he has been a double champion and is a quick am. He's got a very fast driver with him in Jonathan Cochet, but because he's been a champion and Jonathan Cochet has been a Formula 1 tester, so they both run in the Pro Cup, actually Cedric Lima finds it a bit of a struggle really to compete against the true pros in that class. And yesterday, when they were trying to gain places, so the car got involved in a scrape and ended up retiring from the race. So they're having to try that a bit harder for this year. The grid is now being cleared, and very shortly we will be in business for the green flag lap. The car on pole position, run by Bernaldi Motorsport, one of the top teams in the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo. Started by Milos Pavlovic, whose single-seater career goes back to the UK and junior single-seater racing, Formula 3 into Formula Renault 3.5, into the Dallara Nissan World Series as well for a time. And Milos Pavlovic now changing tack in his career, moving to sports cars. Jeroen Mul, the very tall Dutchman, came from Porsche racing back home into the Carrera Cup Deutschland, Porsche Super Cup, and then into Lamborghinis this year. Porsche racing is a very tough championship to crack, but straight away he was on the pace in Lamborghini racing. And looking strong as you have a look at the Huracan, the new car that will be the base for next year's championship. In fact, Lamborghini continuing to move the championship forward, and it's an even more svelte shape, the new car. And I think we'll end up next year that we'll have two classes for the Gallardo that we have on the grid here, and you're looking at them as we go all the way through it, and for the Huracan as well. 47, Alberto Viberti, you've just caught a look at. Then Gerhard Travasa and Sebastian Merkin on the next row of the grid. And back and back and back the grid forms. Dimitri Angelbert and Alberto Cerqui are on the fourth row. The fifth row is Simone Pellegrinelli and Alberto Di Folco. Pellegrinelli there, 31 in the blue car. The next row of the grid is Shota Abkazava, the Russian circuit owner, in the green car alongside Cyril Lima, who starts. Then Taras Polishuk alongside Alexandra Martins. Polishuk's orange car you've caught a glimpse of. Then Roberto Deliguanti in the yellow car lining up alongside Pierluigi Sigismondi. Tim Richards comes next on the grid, the Canadian, alongside Natalia Fraidana. Jake Rattenbury, the Welshman, alongside Manuel Flaminio in the yellow car. Davide Stancheris and Mikhail Spiroronov come next, ahead of Mirko Bortolotti and then Jonathan Cochet. And at the back of the grid, Giovanni Venturini, another man who's come from single-seater racing into Lamborghinis this year. So the grid is formed. It will be a rolling start, of course, and we are into the final minute before that lap gets underway. So very shortly, the cars will be released. The pit window between 20 and 30 minutes and 84 seconds being the mandatory pit stop time. So in a few moments' time, we'll get the race underway. And down in the pit lane, the teams are ready. There's very little they can do when you get to the pit stops other than change the drivers over if necessary, but fundamental to the whole thing is you've got to time the pit stop right. You've got to allow for the drive time from pit in and pit out, and therefore subtract that from the 84 seconds and have your car at rest for the absolute minimum. But if you get it wrong, then you can do your driver real harm. That green flag releases the cars onto the warming up lap. The cars turn their way out of La Source and head off downhill, then ready for the start of 50 minutes of racing. 53 there, which is Simone De Luca, another driver that's moving from single-seater racing into GT cars, having come out of the Italian-based Formula Abarth series. And Simone De Luca, new to the championship this year, in fact hasn't done every round, so learning about the cars. You can see what class they are in from the Pro or Pro-Am or Am sticker on the back. On the field, turning its way uphill. Not only are these cars a fabulous shape, they make the most glorious noise. It's like an opera going past you. And if you want to have a look at how the grid forms up, it is like this, with Pavlovic on pole, Jeroen Mul lining up alongside him. The second row of the grid is where you find Simone De Luca and Alberto Viberti for company. The third row of the grid is Gerhard Verhaaser and Sebastian Mercan. They are the two starting drivers. Next up, Dimitri Engelbert will go first in Mikko Skellinen's car, and Alberto Cecchi is alongside Simone Pellegrinelli. Very successful in the AM class, really the man to beat is alongside Alberto Di Folco. Then Shota Abkazawa comes next alongside Cyril Lima. Taras Polishuk is alongside Alexandra Martins in his, what you might call, spare car, replacement car for the weekend. Then Roberto Deliguanti and Pierluigi Sigismondi come next, ahead of Tim Richards and Natalia Freidana. For 19th on the grid, it's Jake Rattenbury, the former Ginetta Junior racer, alongside Manuel Flaminio. Then Davide Stancheris in the MOV Motorsport car, alongside Mikhail Spironov, another of the AMs. And then you get to the real three to watch, because 33, Mirko Bortolotti, the former Formula 2 champion, will start, and he's got work to do. Jonathan Cochet, who is a very, very, very fast single-seater racer, he will start in 63, Cedric Lima's car. And Giovanni Venturini is at the very back of the grid, and he's had a couple of third places this year, so he too proves that he's got the pace somebody else that's come from single-seater racing. So as the cars work their way down through Pouhon, how long is it going to be before Bortolotti gets up near the front? He should be able to wiggle his way through the AMs fairly swiftly. After that, though, life might be a bit more difficult for him. So as they come down through the Piff-Paff onto campus, we'll go racing at the end of this lap. 50 minutes we have, and it's going to be a very dramatic race, particularly the way that the grid is shaped up, with the quick man at the front, more quick people at the back, and we have had some very good racing this year. Go back a few seasons, the entries were small and they were dominated by the likes of a Peter Cox or a Fabio Babini, who was just so much quicker than anybody else. But the way the championship has evolved, with some good thinking by Lamborghini management to change the focus, young career racing drivers give more for the AMs, something to race for, it really has worked very strongly. And the championship now booming, and with the advent of a new car as well, it's going to go from strength to strength. So the officials are ready to get the race underway. Down in the pit lane, there's plenty to enjoy in the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo. More distractions for the mechanics. So out of Blanchimont, the cars now come, heading up towards the timing line. And race 2 of the weekend is about to get underway. This is round 8 of the championship that goes to the Nürburgring and then finishes at Sepang as part of the World Final weekend. They are championship races there this year. So Thursday, Friday will be the last European races, and then Saturday, Sunday, the World Finals for these cars. Huge grid of Lamborghinis in prospect in Malaysia. But before that, we've got race 2 at Spa to think about. It is about to get underway. Into the bus stop they come, oh so slowly in the Noah's Ark 2x2 formation, through the right and through the left, up towards the timing line. The pace car peels into the pit lane, and so round 8 of the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo is about to get underway as the cars accelerate now over the line. We are in business then. Race 2 of the weekend is go, and from pole position, Milos Pavlovic it is who leads the way. Diving up on the inside line there, tries to go Simone De Luca, and he's going to get second place, I think, as they work their way through the corner. And already a handful of cars get forced out wide, but Pavlovic it is who grabs the advantage. One of the ones that went wide was Jeroen Mul, and he is about to get monstered, look, because up alongside him comes Simone De Luca. He will go second on the run downhill through Eau Rouge for the first time, up through Radion, along the Camel Straight, and Milos Pavlovic has gone already. Big advantage for Milos Pavlovic as they head up towards Les Cons for the first time. David Addison and Ben Constanduros watching a race that now is being led in impressive fashion by Pavlovic. Ben, he's getting his head down on this first sector and building the gap.
Yeah, and that's because everybody else is distracting themselves. This battle for second position between, what, 6 or 7 cars, and Jeroen Muller's dropped back from his pole position grid slot. He was on the outside line, and as we've seen already in other races with rolling starts here, the outside is not as good as the inside line.
So down they come to Bruxelles for the first time. 47 there, which is Alberto Viberti, the 20-year-old ex-kartist, ex-Ginetta racer, ex-Clio racer, trying to gain ground as well. And as the field works its way then down out of Speaker's Corner for the first time towards Pouhon, already there is a problem, I think, for Alberto Cecchi's car.
Yeah, exactly. He hasn't even taken the start of the race. He should have been up there in, 7th or 8th position, but is shown as being in the pits.
So that is another drama. Alberto Cecchi, who should have been a quick driver, starting on the 4th row of the grid, seemingly a non-starter for the Grassa Racing team. Up front then, Pavlovic it is who leads the way. the rest of the field turning their way through them. With in second place at the moment, Jeroen Mul having got himself back ahead of Simone Di Luca. Alberto Viberti running in fourth place. Simone Pellegrinelli in the blue car there, the real star in the AM class this year, but at the moment not in a class lead as the field now works its way out of the right-hander at campus, and a yellow flag was being waved and the safety car has been deployed. The safety car is being deployed. Now, we haven't seen an incident on track to tell us why that would be.
No, but we do have a couple of cars that haven't made it through into Sector 2 as yet. Maybe they're just at the back of the field.
Spidorinov is one, and I think Natalia Fraidana is the other. So it looks like the Russians have got themselves together.
Although they have now made it. So the only car that's missing is the 26 car that is signalled to be in the pits. Ah, there we go. In fact, he's not in the pits at all, is he? He is parked
on the pit straight.
On the pit straight, having not made it to his grid spot.
Yes, because the car hasn't clicked the beam at the start of the race, the timing system thinks he must be in the pit lane. So yes, that's why we have the safety car, because Alberto Cerqui has parked it.
Oh, down the hill?
At La Source, so he did take the start.
Yeah, very strange.
But didn't get very far, yes, exactly. So the car has ground to a halt coming out of the corner. So he did start, but didn't get very far. Right, OK, we've got to the bottom of it with some good detection work there, Ben.
Yeah, and we've also got another car in the pits. Ceccato, the 34 machine signalled as going into pits at the end of lap 1. So maybe some damage or a problem for that car too.
OK, and weren't they together on the grid, 34? Because, yes, Sebastian Merchan was ahead on the grid of Alberto Cerqui. So it looks as though they might have got themselves together, those two. Maybe one hit the other in the back going into that tight hairpin. Right, safety car then. Not for the first time this weekend. Safety car is on track and the field makes its way uphill. So Milos Pavlovic it is leading the way, having been able to extend an advantage early on, but then of course the gap disappears. Jeroen Mul running in second place, Simone Di Luca in third, Dimitri Engelbert fourth, Gerhard Travasa is fifth, sixth Alberto Viberti, seventh Alberto Di Folco, eighth leading Pro-Am Shota Abkazava, ninth in the AMS, second in the class Simone Pellegrinelli, and 10th is number 33 Mirko Bortolotti, 10th from 23rd on the grid in a lap. Not bad going. The other ones, Jonathan Cochet, 16th, and Giovanni Venturini was the other one that we had to keep an eye on.
19th.
19th he is, thank you. So good opening from him.
Here's the restart, the replay, sorry, of the start. Have a look mid-pack to see where the 26 machine, or how the 26 machine ends up over there. A little bit of contact perhaps in the middle of the pack.
And he just pulls to one side. It's like something broke mechanically and he tried to dive out of the way. I don't think there was contact because no one's hit it. It just
very odd. Ground
to a halt, yeah. So gearbox, power, drive shaft, something like that proprevents any drive out of the corner, seemingly.
Well, car obviously doesn't roll very well because there's a nice, quite steep hill there. Could have made it to Eau Rouge.
And that's the end of that, sad to say. So that was Alberto Cerqui, who's been one of the stars of Superstars, the Italian V8 touring car category in the last few years. But with that being a championship that's not exactly in rude health anymore, so he has turned his attention to this series this year.
In fact, does it even exist?
In a very reduced form.
In a different form,
yes,
yeah.
Yes. Some of the cars still compete, yes, in kind of equivalent. So,
to be fair to Jeroen Mul, though, obviously a lot of challenge and battle in that first lap. He dropped out of the top three, but managed to fight his way back, and over the line, the gap was quite small between him and Pavlovic. So, considering he has not had much experience in this championship this year, he's been driving very well. Obviously, a Dutch driver, but would class this as one of his home circuits, and took the front row grid spot and took second in the race behind Pavlovic and Piscopo in race 1.
Yes, Jeroen Mul, who didn't really star too much in Porsche racing, but has been very, very good indeed in this this year with 3 race wins.
It should be pretty easy to recover that stricken Lamborghini on the first corner, although it's taken a while to get it onto the back of the low loader.
So as soon as that car is out of harm's way, then we should be in business once more. But it's frustrating, of course, for the teams that put their quick driver in first, because you want them to build an advantage in the opening part of the race, and you can't really do that while the safety car is on track. This is why often the teams will run the second driver in the second stint, because if there is a safety car period, you need your quick driver in at the end to be able to make progress. You don't want your slow driver or slower driver in at the end, because they're only going to lose time. We are about to go back to racing.
Yeah, lights are out in the safety car. And very, very boxed up. Everyone really slowing down the pace of Pavlovic. Incredibly slow going into the chicane. In fact, we've got overlap further back. Not allowed to overtake until you see the green flag. Yellow flags through the final part of the chicane. Green flags then over the start and finishing line. And then we can go back to racing in full power. Pavlovic leads Mul over the line.
Racing once more then as the cars work their way through. So down towards La Source. In third place, Simone De Luca once again having a look to try and gain a place, but Dimitri Engelbert very quick in GT racing and in the Eurocup Megane Trophy in the past, he's right there with him as well. Engelbert is the gun in that car, so it's going to drop down in the second stint, so he's got to get on with this and try and drag it up the order. Pavlovic to Mul, 0.7 of a second on the restart here.
Oh, and again, the tyres not up to pressure and temperature like they were being used to on lap 1, and therefore the car's really moving around through Eau Rouge and sliding about. And it was a big slide from that third position car, and therefore De Luca under pressure coming into Le Combe.
So 42 minutes of the race to go, and we're not that far, of course, now off the pit window opening. Another 10 minutes or so as the cars now work their way once again out of the sequence at Le Combe, downhill heading towards Bruxelles. Milos Pavlovic trying to build the gap. Pavlovic and Piscopo make a very formidable combination. They're evenly matched, aren't they, on pace?
Absolutely, two very, very fast drivers in that pro category. The top 3 in the pro category. In 4th position, Engelbert in the 77 car, leading the Pro-Am category for the moment, and in fact, challenging for that 3rd position going into La Source for that first time. It says Escalin on the graphics, but Engelbert on our graphics.
It is definitely Dimitri Engelbert because Mikko Escalinen is not as quick, so for the car to be running up there, it's got to be Engelbert. There are 1 or 2, I think, that are slightly confused in terms of how they're being displayed. Another one being the car of Andrea Ceccato that had pitted, but up front, there's no argument about Pavlovic being the man in charge. Jeroen Mul is not staying with him for the moment, but that said, he is gapping the rest of them because for 3rd place, Simone De Luca is very busy indeed, isn't he, here, being able to fend off Engelbert, and then Gerhard Tveraza, who is up behind him, and Alberto Viberti, who is running in 6th place.
Yeah, Viberti was a lot further ahead of that earlier on in the first part of the race, was fighting for 3rd position, so has dropped down a couple of positions.
Meantime, in the pit lane, people see themselves on television and have a pleasant surprise. Right, leaders into the bus stop then. This is going to be the end of lap number 3. Pavlovic really has been released from the blocks this time because he's on for the fastest lap of the race. He's done the best in sector 1, the best in sector 2, comes across the timing line, absolute best in sector 3, and he leads by 1.9 seconds. Jeroen Mul then going with him in 2nd spot as the cars turn their way through La Source. Out go the pit boards. How are we doing in the classes? Dimitri Engelbert, 4th, leads Pro-Am, and Shota Abkazava, number 70, is leading the Am category. That is Simone De Luca, who is in 3rd place, falling away a little bit from the top 2.
And Mikko Bortolotti up to 9th position now.
Okay, it won't be long, will it, before Bortolotti is up with the leading pros. How is Cochet doing? He is 13th, Venturini 18th. He's finding it hard to work from the very back of the grid. So the race leaders work their way over the timing line. And up front, it is still Milos Pavlovic who leads the way. 1.9 seconds his advantage. Now, all of a sudden, Alberto Di Falco has just done the absolute best in the first sector. And for 3rd and 4th and 5th places, Engelbert versus Tveraza. And Engelbert just staying ahead. That was for 4th. But Gerhard Tveraza had a real go up the inside. The car that caught fire at Monza at the end of the race. But it went well at Silverstone. And 77, Dimitri Engelbert fending him off. Number 90 there is Alberto Di Falco, who is now lapping in the first sector at least, quicker than anybody else. So he's going very strongly indeed.
Well, he must have had a good slipstream because he's managed to get past Viberti and up into 6th position. So extra speed and therefore best sector 1 of anyone, as you say. And now looking to challenge and get involved in that battle for 4th position between Tavese and Engelbert. Little gap though. He's strong in this middle sector, the 77 car, but just doesn't have the pace on the flat-out parts of the circuit, or maybe the bravery through Eau Rouge and Blanchimont, and therefore that is where he's then being challenged.
He's also being helped a little bit now by the battles going on behind. Gerhard Tveraza is being monstered by the charging Alberto Di Falco. Di Falco has got past Viberti, and then he's onto the back of the Austrian driver. So Gerhard Tveraza, who's raced in the ADAC GT Masters Series in Lamborghinis as well as in the One Make Championship, is coming under attack. Race leader is on lap number 4. We've done over 10 minutes of the 50, and through Blanchimont they go once again then. So You've got a charging Defalco trying to hunt down the pack ahead of him and gain places if he can, heading up towards the bus stop. Milos Pavlovic still leading the way in the leading two-driver entry. Jeroen Mul, of course, is a soloist, so that car can run at the same pace throughout the race. Look at this long, long line of cars coming out of the bus stop, virtually as one, and this is 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th really in a long line.
So once again, Engelbert losing position, or not losing position, but losing pace through that first, that last fast sector, and this first sector as well is where he loses time to the battling guys behind, and then if he can stay ahead, he's quicker through the middle sector. But at the moment holds on to that 4th position, first in class. But this is the battle for the Pro-Am lead.
Photographer takes a step back there as the cars come pounding past him. You're going to be quite brave to stand there, I tell you, on the other side of the barrier. Right, an effort is made. Defalco goes to the outside, heading up the hill. He's on the outside line. There's enough room given to him, and he tries to make a bit more as well, doesn't he, by just moving across, clips the wiper on, but he's got ahead of Trofeo there. So now Defalco goes up into 5th place. Gerhard Trofeo falls back behind him, but no doubt will fight back. But this is encouraging, isn't it now? Alberto Defalco getting quicker and quicker as this stint wears on.
Positioned his car right in the centre of the road there through the final part of Les Combes to make sure that he didn't open the door and allow the 25 car back through. Runs a fraction deep through Brussels.
And Defalco is just being given a driving standards flag, so it's partly for his track limits usage, it's partly for his rather gung-ho driving style, but Alberto Defalco, number 90, just as we talk about him gaining 5th place, gets a driving standards warning.
Well, that's all right, it's just a warning.
Yeah, for now.
Yeah, but he's managed to use that warning to his advantage and get past a couple of people whilst he's been at it.
Now have a look in this pack, because at the very back is Mirko Bortolotti. That was really exceeding track limits, diving up the inside there. Look goes Alberto Viberti, 47, and Mirko Bortolotti all over the curb, kicks up the dust, through at the pith path. Fantastic move. Mirko Bortolotti proving how a pro driver really operates in this championship.
That was incredible stuff. The inside for the first part of the fan, but the outside is really very brave, because there's a nasty curb on the outside there and he manages to make it stick. Helped in part, no doubt, by the 47 of Viberti opening the door.
So Mirko Bortolotti started 23rd on the grid. He's now up into the top 6 and he's absolutely flying. And the way that he's going, that car, I don't think it's going to be an outright winner, because in fairness, his co-driver Aristotelis Varvaroussis is a quick am, he's not a quick pro, but it's going to be a class winner. Potentially is back on the inside, comes Gerhard Trofeo, and he retakes the place at the bus stop.
Oh, and a bit of contact too, a bit of carbon fibre goes flying, the little flick-ups on the nose.
And have a look behind as well, because Shota Abkazava in the green car versus Simone Pellegrinelli in the blue car. They're the two leading amateur class drivers. They are absolutely nose to tail, and here comes Bortolotti once again. He stands on the brakes at the last minute. Up the inside he goes, and he's done it at last. He's gone through. Now can he make it stick? If he can pull away downhill and use his bravery through Eau Rouge, then I think it's job done.
And that's what he needs to do, exactly. In fact, the fact that he elbowed. Oh, big slide, lots of opposite lock through the middle part of Eau Rouge. Fantastic to see. And really elbowed his way through at La Source, compromised the speed of his rival going down the hill, and therefore was not under pressure coming into Les Combes.
Abkazava still ahead of Pellegrinelli in the AMS, though, as they went through shot. Next car coming through is 63, which is Jonathan Cochet, still trying to hunt his way up the order. But up front, Milos Pavlovic now leading by 2.9 seconds, which is a comfortable margin, but it's not a huge one, is it, over Jeroen Mul?
No, Jeroen Mul has ultimately in the last lap lost a second, but in the last couple of laps has been relatively on pace. Pavlovic doing his best lap of the race so far, 24.8. Found a lot of speed in that last time through, but of course he has to swap with Eduardo Piscopo when they come into the pits, and Piscopo will then be green. Will take a couple of laps to get up to speed, whereas Jeroen Mul simply will come in, sit in the car and then go back out again.
So he knows what the track is like, he knows what the car is like, he's got all the data he needs going into the second stint. We are about then 4 minutes away from that pit window opening. 84 seconds, pit in to pit out, including the stop to do the driver change or the sit there time. So Pavlovic trying to build up the advantage. How's this little battle getting on still? Because now, look, Dimitri Engelbert has been caught by Alberto Defalco. These are Pro-Am cars. Alberto Defalco, who is a soloist, but in Pro-Am. and proving to be very quick indeed. Engelbert is no slouch, whether it's in these or Eurocup Megane Trophy or the Euro NASCAR Series, but Alberto Di Falco has arrived on his tail in a big hurry, and this class-leading battle goes into the bus stop. Engelbert will give way to Mikko Eskilinen, who isn't as quick, whereas De Falco, same principle as Jeroen Mul, can run at the same pace throughout the 50 minutes. That is looking very good for a class win, that car.
De Falco incredibly fast through Blanchimont, wasn't able to make it a move into the chicane, but now dives down the inside into La Source, not quite side by side enough. And Engelbert has the momentum to go all the way around the outside at La Source, compromises the speed of De Falco, and therefore I think De Falco won't be close enough to make the move into Lecombe.
I think you're right about that.
Intelligent.
He's got to be really brave up the hill to claw back the lost time. It was intelligent, you're quite right. But behind them, we've had a change for 8th, 9th and 10th, because Pellegrinelli is up to 8th and Bortolotti has dropped back into 9th place. So point 1, Pellegrinelli leads the AMS. Point 2, what's happening to Bortolotti? Has he suffered by that little bit of contact? Because, of course, Travalsa got ahead of him. They touched. And now, there in the white-fronted car is Travalsa. There is Pellegrinelli. There is Bortolotti, who has not had a good lap at all because he's lost time, he's lost places. Has he got a problem?
Well, it'll be the damage on the front nose. There's a few flick-ups missing, but they don't really add a huge amount of downforce. It cleans up the air around the car, but it wouldn't compromise the amount of grip and speed unless he did knock wheels. And as soon as you make contact with a wheel, then you're compromising suspension and the towing arms, and they are so fragile in any form of motorsport car. Potentially he's just knocked the tracking out. That's
the danger, isn't it, for him, sure. So there is 77, which is Dimitri Engelbert, who turns his way now through Pouhon, and Engelbert trying to edge away from the traffic behind. Alberto Di Falco tucked up with him. This, remember, is for the lead of Pro-Am, and we've got now a minute and a half before the pit window opens. So some of those at the back of the pack could come in at the end of this lap and get that stop out of the way. You want your slower driver to have as little time in the car as possible, even though he might be the bill payer, and get your quicker driver in for as long as possible. Some teams running the faster driver first to try and build up a gap. Doesn't always work though, because as we've seen of what happens if a safety car comes out. It was how Adrian Zaug and Federico De Nora did it last year, and it never worked. They never won a race, so it never became good for them, that plan. It's always better to have your quick driver in second. Right, over the line, Pavlovic leading Mul. 3.4 it was, 3.8 it is. They can pit if they need to at the end of the next lap.
Yeah, Mul still hasn't got his time down below 2:25. Oh, we've got a spinner. The 21 machine's gone round from 18th position.
Alexandra Martins, who crashed his existing car in free practice and took over the Amici tanker car, and he's had a spin in that as well. But the good news is no damage.
Just a little bit eager on the loud pedal going out of Lefagnes, and then was able to keep the car on the track even, and no one collected him. So
I was going to say he's a roadblock for a moment, isn't he? An expensive roadblock. Right, we've got 9, 8, 7 seconds before the pit window opens. There, coming towards us, is Manuel Flaminio, who will give way to Vincenzo Sauto, who for many, many years was in the Ferrari Challenge, but has defected to a different type of Italian supercar this year. Pit window is open, as you can see. And we're almost at the halfway point of the race now, which is being led by Milos Pavlovic, 3.8 seconds up on Jeroen Mul, who is running at a good pace, even if it's not a storming pace, to get back onto terms with the race leader, Jake Rassenberg, you just saw. And another spin, and 79 it is, that's looped at the bus stop. Rejoining now, that is Mikhail Spidoronov. The Russian driver gets back into the race.
Had been lying 20th.
And this is how life looks on board in a Lamborghini. You're riding with Jeroen Mul, clear road ahead, because he's not close enough now to Milos Pavlovic. Coming through the pith path, right, then the left. That little dot in the distance is the leader. Uses all of the curb, this short run down towards campus. Let's see what the gap is in this sector. 4 seconds, creeping up all the time, isn't it?
Nice to see the car just dancing around on the bumps through Paul Frere. That was Stavelot corner, just about flat out in these Trofeo cars. And then again, Blanchimont. Sounded to me like it was a little bit of a blend off throttle. Now pick your braking point.
Down through the gears. Find the first apex, use the curb. Tuck it into the second apex, back on the power. can hear him use the curb, can't you? That little rattle.
Yeah, and then and the car will feel different as well if you go over the curb and onto the grasscrete. The grasscrete almost feels like driving on jelly, and the car will move around, but sometimes you want to free the engine up, and that's a good way of doing it by dipping the wheel over the grasscrete. Allows you potentially, if you've got a turbo, to get onto that turbo and accelerate out the corner.
And Jeroen Mul is now 4 seconds back, so we need to see, not really the pace now of Pavlovic, but of Eduardo Piscopo, who is quick but not as quick as Pavlovic. There's not much to choose, admittedly. Jeroen Mul really is pushing on there because he was way over the curb coming out of Eau Rouge, heading up through the first sector. Right, the pit stops are underway. That is Natalia Fraidana, who had been caught up in the opening laps skirmishes. Also in is Alberto Viberti to get the stop out of the way early. How frustrating is it when you're doing a race on your own like this, just to be sitting there waiting for the clock to tick away? Must feel like it takes forever.
I guess the challenge is to try and keep yourself calm.
At least the stereo is good in the Lamborghini. 64 is in, as I say, which is Natalia Fraidina back into the race. So that car goes down the pit road and ready to rejoin as we have a look at the top of the hill. He's looking down from Eau Rouge past the old pits, the old start and finish line. And the race leader continues to hustle on. Milos Pavlovic then leading the way.
The most frustrating thing about sitting stationary in the pit strapped into the car is heat soak, because whilst you're driving along, you've got various vents that allow cold air into the cockpit and keep you cool. As soon as you stop, obviously they don't work any longer, and suddenly you feel actually just how hot it is in that cockpit. These not so bad because the engine's in the back of the car, but with front engine cars, all that soak of the engine heat comes into the cockpit and suddenly you're sweltering, and all you want to do is get the air moving again so you can cool down.
Well, the race leader, which is Milos Pavlovic, continues to dominate this race. Jeroen Mul dropping away in the first sector, actually a little bit quicker in the second sector of this lap by 0.3 of a second. So he's doing his best to stay on terms with Milos Pavlovic. It is Pavlovic, not Piscopo, that has done the fastest lap of the race. Eduardo will do the second stint in that car. The graphic is displaying how the drivers are entered. It's Piscopo's name that goes on the entry list first, but it's not him in the car. And so up towards the completion of the lap they come.
Slightly deep into the first part of the chicane, and really had to hustle the car through the second part and almost flick it sideways to get through that left. And that wasn't the most efficient way through. A 25.6 to a 25.5. Mul going faster than Pavlovic for the first time in 9 laps.
Interesting, isn't it, that he has now been able to bring it down to 3.9 seconds. So Pavlovic coming to the end of his stint. There is 21 that rejoins the race. Alexandre Martins, the Portuguese driver, he'd had that spin anyway, hadn't he, which cost him time. So Martins now even further back because of the stop, but he'll get that time back as everybody cycles through the pit stop process. In has just come Simone Di Luca out of 3rd place, incidentally, and also in Alberto Di Folco out of 6th place. So now it starts to become fascinating to see how different drivers shake up in the second part of the race. Taras Polishuk's orange car through, that's made a pit stop, so it's in 18th place now, and it won't be long before he's a lap down. So the race leader coming out of Les Combes on the tail of Polishuk. Jeroen Mul in the first sector lost a couple of tenths. Real cat and mouse stuff, isn't it, this, between Pavlovic and Mul? It's not really down to traffic. Yes, there is one back marker ahead, but it's not exactly been a battle affected by lots of back markers. So 4.1 seconds in the first sector, 3.9 from the start of the lap. And Taras Polishuk comes down towards Pouhon. Lights flash from Milos Pavlovic behind. Good move, though, by Pavlovic, isn't it, this, after his single-seater career stagnated, to completely change tack, come into GT racing and try and kickstart the career and become a paid driver, not a paying.
Absolutely, and with Piscopo as a teammate, able to really show the worth at the front of the field and have the most attention. There's one thing driving in a Pro-Am category and fighting mid-pack and maybe not necessarily getting the attention you need, but when you are 2 pros sharing the car, then it really is flying the flag.
So it's a car that's had 3 wins this year. Jeroen Mul has had 3 wins as well. And there in the pit lane is another of the Bonaldi cars serving its mandatory stop. And that should be...
That's a 34.
34.
So that's its second stop, is it not? Because it made a stop early on in the race, after lap 1.
It did, yes, it had that non-routine stop, but Sebastian Merchant's now giving way to Andrea Ceccato.
I think Ceccato's, it was in the start of the race, from what I saw on the grid.
Okay, it's not what was declared by the team. Into the pits comes the leader, Milos Pavlovic then.
And followed by Jeroen Mul, I think, or was that the 53 behind? Could have been De Luca.
Well, Pavlovic has crossed the timing line, so has Mul in the pit lane, so it's the top 2 that come in. So down the pit road comes Jeroen Mul, 84 seconds each, but as I say, you can lose time in the pit stops. You can't gain anything because it's the set time, but if you muck it up, then you can do your driver a real disservice. So there, wiper on. As drivers get in and out, they've caught the stalk, flip the wiper on. So can Jeroen Mul get ahead on the pit stops? Can he get ahead on the outlap? Can he take the battle to Eduardo Piscopo? Well,
I think that's where to do it, is to try and take the time out of him in the first couple of laps whilst Piscopo is still getting warmed up, basically. These drivers are very, very good at just getting in the car and going. But Jeroen Mul has had nearly half an hour's worth of driving underneath him.
Pellegrinelli in, Cochet in, Venturini in, Spidoronov in. So the bulk of them now cycling through the pit stops. It leaves you with Engelbert and Tveralza on track as those that have not yet made the mandatory stop.
And those two are still locked together, just 0.4 of a second over the start-finishing line.
Right, so back into the race goes number 3, now Eduardo Piscopo. And the other one to look for is going to be Jeroen Mul, who blasts away.
Strange one, he seemed to be going very slowly at the end of the pit lane there. Almost like he was waiting for a green light to come on, but it was green.
It was green anyway, yes. And it's a long pit lane, of course, because the cars accelerate now back on track, left one pit lane. So you're looking down to the endurance pits. For the purposes of the Blancpain Endurance Series race, the 24 hours, it's all one pit lane. You have to use the endurance pits because teams are based in both. But for this race, it's just the top pits, the F1 pits that they use, so they come back onto the circuit after La Source. And Eduardo Piscopo now versus Jeroen Mul. For the race lead, the real race lead, Dimitri Engelbert is ahead of Gerhard Tveralza at the moment.
So in terms of Sector 1 then, Mul just taking 0.3 of a second out of Piscopo. So he didn't really win too much in the pits.
But if he can take more out in Sector 2 and get up with Piscopo while he's still betting himself in, then that does throw the dice his way, doesn't it? We've got 21 minutes of the race to go. And there is the leading car, the real leading car. Way wide over the white line, straight away from Eduardo Piscopo. And that's at a corner where there's precious little runoff. We've actually not had that much damage at that corner this weekend, but quite often, if you're going to find a car with damage, it would have been in that tyre stack. So Piscopo ahead of Mul, and the gap, as Ben rightly says, had come down in the first sector. Now, of course, there are back markers just to test Eduardo Piscopo's mettle on his outlap as well.
Right, and there is Jeroen Mul, so much closer than we ever saw Pavlovic and Mul in the first opening stint of the race. Piscopo now managing to get past the back marker. Jeroen Mul now with the flashing lights. Can he dive down the inside through Stabilo? Yes, he can. There is Pavlovic explaining his stint.
And we have news that Alberto Viberti is under investigation for speeding in the pit lane. Now, the stewards will have a look at the data, but Alberto Viberti, the 20-year-old Italian, is under investigation for being too fast down the pit lane. Right, Engelbert and Tveralza battled on the track. They've now battled into the pit lane.
Yeah, and Mul took a second out of Piscopo in the middle sector alone, and you can see it. And that is exactly what we're talking about, getting warmed up. There's no chance to just have yourself a one lap to get comfortable, as we've got a car spinning. What's that, 63?
That's the Cochet Lima car. Cedric Lima is new into it. That's on his outlap. He's just spun at Les Combes. Well, that throws them any chance of a decent result straight out of the window. The lead gap is 1.6 seconds. It's on this, isn't it?
It is now, but Piscopo will soon be getting back up to speed. His middle sector of a 9.8, nowhere near where it should be.
So Piscopo leads, Mul second. Simone De Luca should retake his third place. The pit window is now closed. Those that are serving their pit stops can finish them and get back out again, but Engelbert and Tveralza will rejoin. And I think that on the pit stops, looking at the way that the information came up on the timing screen, Sandro Bickel in Tveralza's car has got ahead of Mikko Esquilinen in Engelbert's. I think they've switched around, leaving the pit lane. So, there is 22. That is Jeroen Mul. How are we doing for sectors? He's a 10th quicker again in Sector 1.
Just as a reference, in race 1, Jeroen Mul finished after a 50-minute race just 0.3 of a second behind the Pavlovic-Piscopo car, and therefore we could see a repeat, or even better, Jeroen Mul will get to that range of 3 or 4 tenths and then desperately want to get past.
Absolutely right. And of course, if there's traffic ahead, then that might just shake things up. And if Piscopo continues to do that and run off the road, then driving standards are going to be an issue. That's 2 laps he's done and 2 laps at the same corner, he's not just over the curb, he's all four wheels way over the white line.
Yeah, you say that, but we haven't seen too much from race control about that in this particular race. We saw one warning flag, but I've seen many cars going over the all four wheels off at Eau Rouge, which is one of the real important places to do it, because you can almost straight line Eau Rouge and bring more momentum through the Kemmel Straight. And many cars going off out of Paul Frere, and no one is getting penalties. It would be a bit embarrassing if everyone got them, though, wouldn't it?
That is true, I suppose. Yes, maybe you can give the AMs a bit more leeway than the pros. You could argue they should know better, but that is four wheels off. That's four wheels off, yeah. So what's good for the goose, good for the gander and all that. Your own Mull, I suppose, if he's measuring his pace against the car ahead and it runs wide, he will run wide inevitably with it. But
and you have to. As soon as that first guy's doing it, if you don't do it, then you fall back. And unless there's a penalty being thrown, you'll just lose your position on circuit.
The gap to the eye, I was going to say, has widened just a tad on that lap. Let's see, in the first sector it was down by 1/10, in the second sector down by 3/10 in fact. So your own Mull is still hustling on, and Eduardo Piscopo is not storming away from him.
Well, the pit stop window is shut now, so it's this lap we'll finally see how it all shakes out. 9/10 of a second between Piscopo and Mull.
So what we have now is less than what we had when it was Pavlovich versus Mull, ignoring safety car periods. So coming past the endurance pits, Eduardo Piscopo is trying to build the lead. Your own Mull is trying to stay with him and in fact then challenge. In third place it is Simone De Luca, as it was before the pit stop, so he's maintained track position. Fourth is Alberto Di Folco. Fifth is Alberto Viberti, whose team manager is being summoned to race control, and sixth now is Sandro Bickel in the Travasa car, and seventh is Eskilinen in the Engelbert car. So they did switch over on the pit stops, but the lead in Pro-Am is now Alberto Di Folco, and Alberto Viberti has been given a drive-through for speeding in the pit lane. So fifth he is, Alberto Viberti, but a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane.
I would have thought that's pretty hard to do. You should really have a pit lane speed limiter button, and unless that's programmed wrong, it's quite hard to do it unless you release it a little bit early.
One could also suggest that if you've been speeding, your pit stop would have been shorter than 84 seconds, which therefore is another penalty altogether. But anyway, for the moment it's a drive-through.
And the way it's measured, by the way, is very simple. There's a marshal with a speed gun.
Yeah.
As simple as that.
Whereas the actual 84 seconds is measured from the timekeeper's the beam broken at pit in to pit out, and again that can prove whether you've been short on the pit stop. As I said before the race, often we've had people having to make a stop go of 0.3 of a second to make up the difference, which is impossible, I know, but it does happen. It was at Navarra that I think it was the 0.3 of a second, and the guy in question stalled it, so it became an enormously long stop go penalty. But that's a little aside. Your own Mull did a personal best, Ben, in the first sector, but not as quick as Piscopo's first sector.
No, but Piscopo's not comfortable in the middle sector of the lap at all, and again loses, what's that, 4/10 of a second, which means the gap is less than half of a second now as they head through Blanchimont. Both of them running four wheels off through Paul Frere, doesn't seem to matter. Two wheels off as they go into Blanchimont, and then two wheels off, sometimes four on the exit of Blanchimont as well. We have a real battle for the lead. 15 minutes for Jeroen Mull to find a way through. Yet another Dutch person just coming into my head.
As they do, yes. It's understandable because there's barely a GT type of category that your own B doesn't race in, but your own M, your own Mull comes over the line. Last time 0.961, now 0.765 of a second back, so the gap has come down.
And now he's in slipstream range. Now he can benefit from being second car on the road.
And if you can get close enough at the bottom of the hill and attack heading uphill, then that's going to be fascinating. The class is just quickly Alberto Di Folco leading in the Pro-Ams, and yet again Simone Pellegrinelli leads in the Am class as out of Eau Rouge goes the leader Eduardo Piscopo. Your own Mull not as close, in fact, coming up Radion.
No, lost a bit over the start and finishing line through La Source. So certainly not close enough to pick up a decent slipstream. He'll pick up something from there, but not enough to draw alongside, that's for sure. But it's the middle sector where Mull is much, much stronger, seems to have found a better rhythm through there, and it is a lot about rhythm here at Spa. It's lovely, flowing type of circuit, and with Piscopo only having done, 3 laps, he's still yet to really get into that rhythm. Bit more direct, breaking into Brussels. Piscopo's car heading towards an early apex, whereas Mull rounding that more traditionally. Here is where Piscopo has run off the circuit twice, doesn't quite make it 3 times, but the rear end sliding around as it just catches over the curb and onto the grasscrete. Now through Pouhon. Beautiful, long left-hander. It's in theory, 2 apexes, but it's 1 steering input. And then down to what is known as Piff Paff or Le Rivage, almost a hairpin right-hander, followed by a 90-degree left-hander, and another place where you want to set your car up for the exit for this corner, the left part, so you can then squirt down to campus.
Now that gap up in the first sector by 0.2. And what about the middle sector? Can Jeroen Mul get closer? Just now, as he loses another 1/10, I would suggest the emphasis is starting to go to Piscopo. He's looking the stronger now. He's getting into a rhythm. He's getting more and more confident. It may only be by a 10th here and a 10th there, but it all adds up.
Absolutely. Piscopo no stronger, in fact, than his last lap. It was Mul that's lost 0.4 on his last lap. And Mul still hasn't broken into the 40s in the first sector, and that's where he really needs to concentrate his energy on. I don't think he's brave enough through Eau Rouge, but then again, looking at his car, it definitely looks like on the limit. Much stronger on the brakes, though, into the chicane, and look how close it is once again.
Tail wags a bit on Mul's car though, doesn't it, as he bangs down the power, comes over the timing line. The gap's 0.9 of a second, so a lap ago it was all exciting, it was 7/10, so now the gap has gone up again. So Jeroen Mul, with this rather elasticated situation, comes out of the hairpin at La Source.
Dare I say it, that Jeroen Mul seems to have a sort of slightly loose rear end on that car. And therefore, if he's got a loose rear end, he's not going to have confidence through these really quick corners where you want the rear end to stick. And again, look at that.
Yeah, it's not as planted, is it?
It just moves around just a little bit.
And therefore, his run through Eau Rouge collectively, not just the first bit, but the second bit as well, isn't as strong. He heads uphill now, going to Les Combes. What's the first sector time going to reveal to us? Behind them, still third, is Simone De Luca, 40.8, place 41.5. That is a big loss of time for Jeroen Mul.
And we saw it. Piscopo still stronger. 40.8 is as strong as he's been, but maybe Mul is cooking his tyres.
Could be, yeah.
It's hot out there today. The tarmac absorbs a lot of heat. I think early this morning the temperature was over 40s. I don't have a reading on here any longer.
So as the cars work their way downhill, now it's Jeroen Mul's time to go all 4 wheels over the white line. Milos Pavlovic looking pretty confident now because this gap is continuing to go up. But if that car's pulled away by 7/10 in the first sector alone, then it's looking very, very good indeed. 11 more minutes of the race to run. Coming out of Pouhon. 2 race leaders working their way down to the Piff Path. We're on lap number 15. Jeroen Mul, I think, has given it his best shot, but he's just being outpaced, isn't he?
Just a little bit in the first and last sectors. He's on par in the middle sector. He's stronger in the middle sector, unless Piscopo is sort of settled into that rhythm we were talking about. We'll be able to tell in just a second with the sector 2 time. Still an 8.2, but Mul an 8.8. So whatever Mul's done on this last lap, it is not working out for him.
Now, is this a lap where he's taking a breather, or is this a lap where he's got a problem? And even as I say, taking a breather, I start to doubt that is the case, because he's just too far back. He's going to struggle to come back from that margin, isn't he?
Absolutely, yeah.
He's lost another 6/10 in the middle sector alone, so I think now Piscopo is being able to capitalise on what it looks to be dramas for 22 Jeroen Mul, and it could well be to do with tyre wear. If he did work the car hard in that middle stint, the tyres are going away from him a little bit. He comes over the timing line, but 9/10 a lap ago, could be about 2 seconds now. It is 2.007.
Still strong in the final sector though. 3/10 up on Piscopo in the final sector, and is a lot cleaner out of the chicane that last time through. The rear end not moving around as much, and maybe just backing off that 1 lap, allowing the tyres to settle down a bit, will give him a bit more grip in these last 10 minutes, and he can then push back on. But yes, 2 seconds now the gap. Got to concentrate on getting a clean run through Eau Rouge, and therefore getting a decent time in that first sector.
So the race leader, Eduardo Piscopo, now 2 seconds clear of Jeroen Mul. Is Jeroen Mul going to be caught by Simone De Luca? No, because he's 22 seconds ahead. It would have to be a real problem for that to change. And coming over the timing line, Sandro Bickel here in 5th place with Giovanni Venturini behind. Now, Venturini started last of all, 25th on the grid, and he's up into 6th place, which is a very good run. We haven't touched on Mirko Bortolotti for a while. He's given the car to Aristoteles Varvaroussis, and it's in 12th place overall. So that car has certainly fallen away, not only overall, but also within the Pro-Am classification. Bickel versus Venturini. This, I would suggest, is going to change before the end, given the way that the former single-seater star is going. Giovanni Venturini now right on the tail of the Austrian, lines up to have a go heading into Les Combes. Is he close enough? He's going to have a real go, isn't he? The white car is Venturini. He's got the line for the corner. And the nose dips as he brakes late.
Yeah, brake a lot later as well. So he was able not only to have the slipstream, but also have the confidence in the braking zone. And considering he was steering left through the right hand at Eau Rouge, that's quite impressive.
So through he goes, up on the inside, picks up the place, and 34 is being given a driving standards flag now. This is the car of Sebastian Merch and Andrea Ceccato, which is still being shown as Ceccato in the car, so that makes me think that it's been wrong all the way. And there's car off there, but disrespecting the track limits is Ceccato. There is 34, so Ceccato has certainly disrespected them by parking way over the white line, so that driving standards flag is now rather academic, but Andrea Ceccato is off the road.
And that was the car that came into the pits on the first lap with a problem, has made 2 stops rather than 1, and now looks to be out of this race. Not sure exactly where that is on circuit. By the way, the gap between Piscopo and Mull is still advantage Piscopo in the first sector, and then advantage Mull in the second sector, and advantage Mull by quite a margin, in fact, in the third sector. So down to 1.8 seconds now, the gap between those two. De Fulco is a long way back, but also leading the Pro-Am category. And he is in 4th position, and it's De Luca on his own, I think about 25 seconds back in 3rd position for that final podium spot.
I think, just going back for a moment to Ceccato, it is in this last sector. It's either Blanchimont or maybe even coming towards the bus stop, because that car is not going very far within the last sector of the lap. So what have we got? We've got Eduardo Piscopo leading Jeroen Mull by 1.8 seconds, from Simone De Luca in 3rd, from Alberto Di Folco leading Pro-Am, from Sandro Bickel, from Giovanni Venturini. Pellegrinelli 7th leads the AMs. Viberti is 8th after his drive-through. Mikko Eskilinen is 3rd Pro-Am. Shota Abkazava, number 70, is the man who is 2nd in the AM class. And now Vincenzo Sauto is 3rd of the AMs in 14th place overall. Quick word about Shota Abkazava. Been talking about him having led the AM class early on. The Georgian motor racing impresario, circuit owner, team owner. He owns a couple of circuits, one in Georgia, one in Russia. He's raced cars, run championships. He used to go to America to race in the Legends World Final. This is the man he's chasing, Simone Pellegrinelli, within the AM class. Pellegrinelli, former bike racer, former Seat racer, and new to the championship this year, going very strongly indeed. This is how the AMs look. Pellegrinelli is ahead of Shota Abkazava, and then 3rd in the AM class now it is number 8, which is Manuel Flaminio and Vincenzo Sauto. Deli Guanti's car, number 5, entered as a Pro-Am, so that I think has crept into the wrong standings there. The race leaders then currently on lap number 17. There is Jeroen Mull now in the 1st sector, 4/10 down, 2nd sector, a 10th down. Yes, there in fact, just you caught a glimpse on the outside heading towards Blanchimont of the parked Ceccato car. That was at Paul Frere, to be fair, rather than Blanchimont. But with 5 minutes to go, it's going to be a mistake or a drama that stops Piscopo. It's not going to be Jeroen Mull, is it?
No, and incredible considering how strong he is in this middle sector. He is much better through Blanchimont. He is much faster in sector 3 overall as Jeroen Mull, and he is on par with Piscopo in the middle sector. But as I say, that they equal each other, in fact, on that last time through. But it is the 1st sector, it's Eau Rouge and La Source where Piscopo has the advantage, and therefore potentially just a better car, a more stable car through that incredibly fast left, right, left. And you can hear the cars going into there almost totally flat out. Oh, and again, a big slide from Mull. But you know that because of the trajectory of the circuit, because it's going uphill, if you do have a slide as you enter, you'll get more grip as the car sort of squashes into the road, and you're almost allowed or able to carry more speed than you should do into that corner because of the hill. The car settles down mid-corner, and then you try and get it straightened up and as much as you possibly can without exceeding track limits, and then head off for 1.5 kilometres flat out.
And again, because it's a bit ragged, because it's not sticking on the ground as much, it runs wide up over the curb. 22, Jeroen Mull in 2nd place. 2nd in itself is not bad. He's still a long way clear of the class opposition. So he's 2 seconds back from Piscopo. He's 24 seconds ahead of the rest. So it's been a decent run, certainly for Jeroen Mull. It's going to help him in the championship as well, this, as he comes then now down through Pouhon. But Eduardo Piscopo looking strong. He's pulled another 2/10s in that 1st sector alone. He's going to get this lap and 1 more, would you think?
Yeah, absolutely. With a 2:26 lap, should be able to get 2 laps out of this.
Yeah.
But now this is one place where potentially we could see a change, because Piscopo now catching traffic, having to really slow up through Lefan. And if we do find a group of cars together in these last 2 laps, that could give Jeroen Mul an opportunity. Now the car pulls over to the right-hand side and gives Mul the pass, an easy pass, and you'll see in the middle sector then that Mul has an advantage by 0.4 of a second this last time through. And it could be more depending on how compliant the traffic becomes.
So Jeroen Mul losing out in Sector 1, gaining some of it back, as you rightly say, thanks to the traffic in Sector 2. Of course, he's got to get past that slower car as well, but he might encounter it at an easier place. Leaders work their way down towards the bus stop. They're going to get 2 more laps out of this, in fact, for the sake of 20 seconds, coming up towards the timing line now. So 2 more laps, Piscopo leading the way. Over the line in second place is Jeroen Mul. The gap is now 2 seconds. That last lap was a 2:27.2, so fractionally quicker was Jeroen Mul, but he's not close enough to make a move, is he? Piscopo looks the stronger of the 2, and it's going to be a 4th win, seemingly, for Eduardo Piscopo and Milos Pavlovic here.
I'm just having a look at the track graphic, and I think they're going to stumble across the battle for 3rd in AM between the 7 and the 8 cars, along with the 99 car as well, which is lapping some 20-odd seconds slower than they are. So I reckon by the time those 2 laps are done, we're going to find those 3 cars that are not necessarily locked together. They're pretty close to each other, and they'll need to lap those. Now you can just see flicking through the screen there at Lecom, the first of them.
And 4/10 lost in Sector 1 by Jeroen Mul. And he's not gaining 4/10 back anywhere, is he?
As it has been.
Yeah, it's lap after lap after lap. It is all building. Piscopo isn't setting the world on fire with his pace, but he's certainly benefiting from Jeroen Mul's lack of pace, relative lack of pace behind. Piscopo a little bit wide through the first apex of Bruxelles there, heading down the hill.
He's got a funny line. He treats that corner like you would treat Luffield at Silverstone, going in very, very early, then running mid-corner quite wide, and then cutting back again on the exit.
So having 2 bites at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Allows you to carry more speed in, allows you to brake later, and in theory, if you're racing someone on track, then you would do that to defend your line, but I wouldn't have thought it's the fastest way.
And now another back marker ahead. So number 99, which is the car of Pierluigi Sigismondi, who's only ever done racing in this series in one of the Haro's Racing System cars. Again, second lap in a row at the Piff Paff.
Yeah, exactly the same place, and he's in the way, and he's still in the way on the inside line, and Piscopo slightly nervous to turn in there with the 99 car on the inside. What is he going to do to Jeroen Mul? Now, Mul, of course, is going to catch him on the flat-out part of the circuit, so it should be very easy to pass. Out of Paul Frere. Where's he going to put the car? Whoa, ugly from the 99 car. Very nervous as a driver going at such a greater speed as to exactly where he's going to go.
Jeroen Mul makes advantage there. He powers past and has pulled back half a second, and there's drama here. It is somebody at La Source, and it's on the inside, so it's actually in the pits or the paddock there. A little bit of commotion. I don't think it's going to affect the race, is it? Which is almost at the end. But the race leaders have got 9 seconds, 8 seconds to go. They're going to squeeze another lap out of this. Yes, onto the final lap they go. 1.9 seconds is the margin. So it's come down a little bit, but again, it'll grow in this first sector.
Unless Piscopo catches the yellow machine just ahead of him, going through Eau Rouge, and that would be a disaster for him to have to back off there.
Yes.
I think he's going to be okay. I think this should be an easy pass because it's going to be along the Kemmel Straight.
It's Vincenzo Sauto who is up the road in the yellow car that you're talking about. There is Jeroen Mul. So we'll see in a moment if he's going to be able to inch up onto the back. Even if he can gain a couple of tenths, he's still too far back to challenge on the last lap, I would propose. So as they come to the end of the first sector, the lights busily flashing from the race leader Eduardo Piscopo, who does not want to get held up at all. But even there, he's 8 tenths quicker.
Wow. And it's Mul in Eau Rouge going sideways. That we can see it visually on screen. He's turning left when he should be turning right. The car's sideways. He's scrubbing off the speed and therefore momentum. Oh, it's very nervous moments from Eduardo Piscopo. God, Sauto didn't make it easy for him, did he?
Well, he's gone through. Piscopo in the end takes advantage of Sauto running up onto the curb. He's gone through. And on this lap, it's going to be Jeroen Mul who encounters the slower car at the wrong place, isn't it? Because he's not yet caught up, and he might encounter it heading down towards the Piff Paff. So Eduardo Piscopo, I think, is virtually home and dry now.
Yeah, one more car to lap, but this is the final lap, so it should be a double victory for these two this weekend.
And it's going to be win number 4. So after success for Pavlovic and Piscopo that first came in the second race at Monza and then came again at Paul Ricard, and then victory earlier on in the weekend here. It's going to be another win to add to that list. So these two new to the championship this year. Piscopo has done some GT racing in the past. He drove in Blancpain in its first year when we had a GT4 class with the Mansell brothers in a Lotus Evora, so he does know about GT racing and sharing a car, but it's new to Pavlovic. And these two leading the way. Jeroen Mul in second spot then, still working his way through traffic.
Yeah, and lost another second in the middle sector there with that traffic. So good effort from Jeroen Mul, but couldn't quite do enough in those first couple of laps when Piscopo was getting geared up, and then I think must have cooked the tyres because suddenly his pace dropped off.
So down they come into the bus stop for the final time, and Eduardo Piscopo it is then who turns his way up towards the checkered flag. It's going to be win number 4 of the season for Milos Pavlovic and Eduardo Piscopo. The checkered flag is waved to complete round 8 of the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo here at Spa. Jeroen Mul takes second. The gap at the flag being 2 seconds between the top two. Third will go the way of Simone Di Folco. He's quite a long way back and he's on his way up towards the timing line. But a very, very good drive it has been from Simone Di Folco for third place. Giovanni Venturini from 25th to 4th. Another fine effort put in. And then 5th place, Alberto Di Folco should be the winner of the Pro-Am category. And the winning Am is going to be Simone Pellegrinelli, as oft it is. In fact, more often than not, it has been him this year who has been the man to beat in the amateur class. Di Folco winning Pro-Am from Travasa and Sandro Bickel, and Mikko Eskilinen and Dimitri Angelbert taking third there, with Pellegrinelli, Shota Abkazava, and then Taras Polishuk being the top 3 within the AMs at the end of 50 minutes of racing. So very shortly the drivers will make their way up to the podium. And let's confirm how things finished. A win for Eduardo Piscopo and Milos Pavlovic then, ahead of Jeroen Mul. And then as there's a car being retrieved. Oh, that's number 99. Now that has happened 2 laps from home. That has gone off at some speed, hasn't it? That is Pierluigi Sigismondi, who was lapping slower than the leaders. And I just wonder whether he got caught up with a quicker car, because I would have not expected him, with respect, to have the speed to have a high-speed moment like that, unless he tried to get out of the way and there was a bit of contact between him and somebody else. But Sigismondi, with damage, fails to make it to the end. So you can see a damaged car parked by the side of the track. Still others come to take the checkered flag here. Number 99 driver okay, we're being told. So Pierluigi Sigismondi is okay, even though the car is perhaps rather less so. And the drivers then making their way to the pit lane. This is how we finished after 20 laps of racing, a safety car period in the middle. Eduardo Piscopo and Milos Pavlovic take win number 4 from Jeroen Mul, and then in third place it was Simone Di Luca. In fourth place, Giovanni Venturini. Alberto Di Folco taking 5th, ahead of Gerhard Verhauser and Sandro Bickel. Simone Pellegrinelli, a class winning 7th. Alberto Viberti 8th. Mikko Eskilinen and Dimitri Angelbert take 9th, ahead of Shota Abkazava. Then Roberto Deliguanti and Paolo Necchi, ahead of Aristotelis Varvaroussis and Mirko Bortolotti, finishing in 12th. Di Folco and Pellegrinelli, the other class winners that you see within that leading group. Laurent Yenny and Cyril Leimer 13th after his spin. Cedric Leimer 14th with Jonathan Cochet. Taras Polishuk 15th. Flaminio and Sauto 16th, ahead of Martin Spidoronov, Tim Richards, and then Natalia Freidina 20th, Jake Rattenbury 21st, and after that the others did not make it to the finish. Well, Spa has been a busy place this weekend. This is looking into the garages for some of the Blancpain teams for the Total 24 Hours of Spa, which is of course the main focus of the weekend. That race due to start this afternoon at 4:30, and the track will be given over very shortly to the Belgian Racing Car Challenge and the European GT4 Series. So Spa is busy, busy, busy all day. Let's look at the highlights of the second of the Lamborghini races. It got off with Milos Pavlovic from pole position, jumping away clear at the start, grabbing the race lead as they went into turn 1, with Jeroen Mul on the outside line, losing ground, being forced out over the curb, but of course he was able to maintain the power and get back onto the circuit. First safety car period, the safety car period for the early demise of Alberto Cerqui, with a mechanical drama. Mirko Bortolotti hustling his way up through the field, and just when it looked like he was going to be gaining lots of ground, so he suddenly had a bit of contact, lost a place at the bus stop, and then went backwards for a couple of laps. We had a spin for Alexandre Martins, the Portuguese driver. Then the pit window opened, the pit stop cycling through the two leading cars coming in on the same lap. So we had Pavlovic giving way to Piscopo. We had Jeroen Mul staying at the wheel of the car, but they both made the pit stops at the same time. Back on track, it looked as though in the second stint Mul had a chance of doing something about the race leader. He was able to bring down the gap. Pavlovic had everything crossed, and gradually Eduardo Piscopo was able to build the advantage once again. Jeroen Mul's car never looking as planted or as stable, and up to the checkered flag. It was Pavlovic and Piscopo that took win number 4 of the season. Jeroen Mul with another second place. He's been very consistent indeed. The first race at Monza, he didn't look that sparkling, but as he's got familiar with the car, getting Porsches out of his system, then he has gone very strongly indeed this year. And as the drivers then head to the podium, he will be there for second position in a season that has netted a good number of podium finishes for Jeroen Mul. As I say, the Dutch driver who has come from Porsche Racing, instantly impressing this year. Second at Monza, 2 wins at Silverstone, a second and a win at Paul Ricard, and 2 second places at Spa. So just that first race, I think he was 6th from memory at Monza in the first race. That's been the only blot on his very impressive copybook all season. So the fans are ready, alcohol in hand, ready to see them through the day. Spa, amazingly enough, has barely got a cloud above it at the moment, and it's very much t-shirt and shorts weather here. So the fans with some more support races to look forward to. Then the 24 hours itself later in the afternoon are ready. And the winning Lamborghini teams making their way up onto the podium, ready for the presentations. And there'll be 3 different class podium ceremonies to do at the end of this 8th round of the championship, which now, from here, moves to the Nürburgring for its final European round. Even though it is the European Championship, it ends in Malaysia, because this year, as part of the World Final meeting, the final rounds will take place over the Thursday-Friday part of the weekend, and then the World Final itself is the Saturday-Sunday. So you've got the American, the Asian and the European Championships all finishing in Malaysia. They have their own independent brace of races, and then it's all in for the World Final itself to end the weekend. And the championship will seesaw back and forth, no doubt, between Eduardo Piscopo and Milos Pavlovic and Jeroen Mul. Piscopo and Pavlovic second, then a win, then a second. It was at Silverstone in the second race they hit problems and were way down the order. Then a win and a second at Ricard, and 2 wins this weekend. So looking very, very close now for the championship with Jeroen Mul. So for Pro Cup, Pro class, very competitive indeed. In the Pro-Ams, a victory here this weekend for, in this race, the car run by the Autocarrozzeria Imperiale team for Alberto Di Folco. So that's helping him in the title race, ahead of Sandro Bickel and Gerhard Travasa, who also were dealt a bad hand at Monza when the car late race caught fire. Sandro Bickel was at the wheel of it, and it had a big fire coming to the second chicane. And then third in the class, Dimitri Angilbert and Mikko Eskilinen, who, although we made the point during the race, isn't as quick as Angilbert. He is getting better in these cars, and so now that is a regular podium finishing car, even if it's not a class winning car. At least Mikko Eskilinen now is getting closer to the pace of Dimitri Angilbert, who has been quick in a variety of categories for a number of seasons now. So Pro-Am is getting more and more competitive race by race. Pit lane is getting busier and busier because the pit lane walkabout, I think, is coming up shortly. We've also got the teams heading for the base of the podium for the Lamborghini presentations. And the amateur class continues to be dominated by Simone Pellegrinelli, who is new into the championship this year, but the Italian former motorbike racer taking victory just about every time out from memory. Shota Abkazava, the Russian driver, the Georgian driver to be fair, is the man really leading the chase. And then in this race, Taras Polishuk third. That's the damaged car of Pierluigi Sigismondi being brought back. That happened right at the very end of the race, having gone off at the Cours Paul Frère and doing some rear damage. So hopefully Sigismondi not too shaken by that. Another of the true amateur, true gentleman racers, indulging himself in the championship this year, but suffering some damage late in the race. So fingers crossed he will be back on the grid for the next races at the Nürburgring in September. Of course, the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo shadows the Blancpain Endurance Series. Alberto Di Falco's supporters are in fine form. And Alberto himself, having had a class win, has enjoyed their support, no doubt, in that race. So the driver's going to the podium. We've got the top 3 from the 3 classes, and as soon as everybody is there, then the ceremonies can get underway. The championship next year potentially to look rather different, because you've got the new Huracan coming into production, and that's been announced as the base model for next year's championship. But the teams with an existing Gallardo, I think, will be allowed to run those, so you will have a spread of the 2 cars. But of course, in the fullness of time, the Gallardos will perhaps be heading into one-make championships or club level racing, and it's going to be the Huracan that is the base model for the championship exclusively. What that does do is free up perhaps more Lamborghinis to go into other GT championships. How close one of those would be to a GT3 car, couldn't tell you, but it would need some work to get it up to GT3 spec, but perhaps not a huge amount. It's based on that same car that will be GT3 eligible, but the Huracan will come in next year and take over in the fullness of time. So looking down onto the grid, the next race forms up here at Spa. The VIPs overlooking the start and finish line. Of course, for the 24 hours, just thinking ahead, you've got the start in the old area, the endurance pits, and the finish coming out of the bus stop, the Formula 1 pits. And that's looking down onto La Source, this fantastic backdrop at Spa-Francorchamps. As now, I think the podium ceremonies are just about ready to get underway. The trophies are there. You have the gold, silver and bronze for the top 3 in each class. So it is the AM class that is going to be done first, and the drivers make their way out onto the podium. Simone Pellegrinelli is the man who goes for the top step of the podium once again, having been the dominant driver in the championship this year. So for Simone Pellegrinelli then, the Italian national anthem, yet another win. Somebody in his first year in the championship doing a very impressive job, and although you tend to think of the AMs being towards the back, definitely not in the case of Pellegrinelli, who is a regular front runner and is able to mix it with the Pro-Ams and some of the pros as well. He does a very, very good job indeed. So the trophies are presented across the classes. There's Shotarab Kazava, the larger-than-life Georgian, being given his silver trophy, and then the gold goes the way of Simone Pellegrinelli. Gets his trophy now, and Pellegrinelli, who's got quite a collection of these, is absolutely delighted. Now, they don't have to worry about any more activity for the weekend, so there's the champagne to be sprayed, and Pirelli, on whose tyres all the cars run, have a trophy to present to Pellegrinelli as well. And then there is also, thanks to Blancpain, yet another clock. He's got a wall full of these. I tell you, the way that the season has gone for Simone Pellegrinelli. And the drivers then have the champagne at their feet, and because they are good gentlemen racers, they're going to keep it, aren't they? No chance. Simone Pellegrinelli soaks himself at the end of a very impressive weekend. 2 victories for the Italian in the AM class here at Spa. So the drivers will flee the podium. And they will have the Pro-Am category up next, won by Alberto Di Falco. The Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo podium is dressed, ready, and then the next 3 drivers or the next 3 teams, I suppose I should say, will head out, because you've got Dimitri Engelbert and Mikko Eskilinen, one of the 2 driver entries, ready to make their way onto the podium for 3rd place. For 2nd spot, Gerhard Verhauser and Sandro Bickel, the 2 Austrians, for Gottfried Grasser's team. And then the class winner, Alberto Di Folco, for the Autocarrozzeria Imperiali squad. Dimitri Engelbert is the slightly more slender of the 2, with the man behind Mad Croc Energy Drink, Mikko Eskilinen, stood next to him as the man that pays the bills. And a 2nd podium finish of the weekend, in fact, for Mikko Eskilinen. Right, what's happened to 2nd place? Because, yes, they're out here now, I think, finally. Gerhard Verhauser and Sandro Bickel arrive. And Alberto Di Folco is announced as the man for the top step of the podium. And after a drive that netted him a solo effort, class victory, he will go to the top step of the podium, and once more the Italian national anthem is played. So it is a win for Alberto Di Folco, and a very happy man. But let's just catch up with the overall winner. Edoardo Piscopo is with Ben.
Eduardo, congratulations, a double victory here at Spa. That 2nd stint, so important to keep ahead of your own. He was pushing you all the way.
Definitely, it looked like a qualifying from inside the car, but the car was pretty good. The handling was better than yesterday, actually. I just had to struggle a little bit with the lapped guys, but at the end we made it, and it's a really important victory for us for the championship.
Where was your advantage over your own?
I believe we were very close everywhere. I think Sector 1 we were quicker in up to Rouge, and then, but it was very close.
And a mention of your teammate Milos, did a great job in the 1st stint.
It's a perfect teammate, I couldn't ask for better.
Congratulations, enjoy the podium.
Guys, thank you, enjoy.
So the drivers for the Pro Cup will now go to the podium, and we have the Pro-Am drivers there celebrating. It's a great championship to be involved in this, because you get, for a start, a great car to drive. You then get some very good circuits to go racing at. You get some very good racing, the quality of which has really improved in the last few seasons with the influx of the younger drivers. And although there are other comparable categories like the Trofeo Maserati or the Ferrari Challenge, the Lamborghini series is very much on the up. And so Alberto Di Folco, one of a number of drivers who's come into this to try and perhaps forge a career as a sports car racer. Going back a few seasons, and you found him in one make racing in Italy. He is getting very much now towards the pace of the pro drivers. And you've heard from one of the pros, Edoardo Piscopo, who very shortly will make his way up onto the podium as the race winner with Milos Pavlovic. For 2nd place, Jeroen Mul. And then for 3rd, a relative newcomer to the championship in the person of Simone De Luca, the former Formula Abarth driver, who has only of late arrived in this category of racing. So as the podium is dressed ready for the Pro Cup drivers, they will be there any moment. And win number 4 of the year for Edoardo Piscopo, who had his spell in the Blancpain Endurance Series when there was the GT4 class a few years ago, and shared the Lotus with the Mansell brothers. So he is on the top step along with Milos Pavlovic. So a 4th win of the year for Edoardo Piscopo and Milos Pavlovic. So it has been a fantastic weekend for them. Some great racing offered as ever by the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo. And the next stop for the championship is going to be the Nürburgring in September. For now, from Ben Considouris and for David Addison, Bye-bye.